The Christmasaurus by Tom Fletcher, Chapter 31, Game Over. William's world was whizzing around him. Of all the impossible things he'd experienced that night, his father's last words were by far the most utterly mind-blowingly unbelievable. As he watched his dad step out into the street, standing in between the hunter's raised rifle and the distant dinosaur, William searched his brain, searched his heart. Could that wretched man, standing like a statue carved out of pure evilness, really be his uncle? "Hello, Huxley," Mr. Trundle's voice interrupted William's thoughts.
"Huxley? Now that's a name I've not been called in a very long time," sneered the hunter, keeping his rifle raised.
"You've gone too far this time, Hux, even by your standards," said Mr. Trundle.
"Well, I couldn't have done it without you, Robert," said the hunter with a sly grin. "If it hadn't been for this beautiful Christmas card, I might never have found the way to catch Fattysaurus and his sleigh."
The hunter reached inside his leathery coat pocket and pulled out the Trundle's traditional Christmas card with the photo of Mr. Trundle and William on the front. William gasped. The Christmas cards they had sent each year to their distant relatives. Great Nana Joan, second cousin Sam, Uncle H. Trundle. H. Trundle. Huxley Trundle. William suddenly knew it was true. All of it. The hunter was his uncle. "Santa, it was my dad. He was the other little boy in the North Pole, wasn't he?" William asked. Santa nodded. It all became clear to William. That's why Dad loves Christmas so much. That's why he knows so much about it, William realised. "And why he's devoted his whole life since then to being good," Santa said, and William remembered that his father had been banished from the North Pole. "This has to end. Now, put the gun down," Mr. Trundle said firmly as he stood blocking the hunter's shot.
"If you think I won't pull this trigger because you're my brother, then you're in for a very nasty shock," the hunter said with evil honesty.
"It doesn't have to be this way, Hux. We're family."
"Family? Pah!" spat the hunter. "I know what family means to you. I know what you're really after, what your pathetic Christmas cards and countless letters over the years have been for. Money. My money. Slicing out of my life all those years ago was the best thing I ever did."
"You've got it all wrong, my brother," replied Mr. Trundle. "I don't want the family money. I never have. Money causes more trouble than it's worth. That stuff has rotted your heart, Hux, but I want to buy it back with kindness." And as Mr. Trundle said those words, he offered his hand for his brother to shake. "A full heart is worth more than a full wallet." The hunter paused. One eye was still glued to the sight of his rifle, while the other flickered momentarily to Mr. Trundle's outstretched hand.
"You have precisely 3 seconds to get out of the way, or I'll blast you out of the way," the hunter said, coldly, as he closed his eye and took aim.
William knew he wasn't bluffing. "Dad!" he called out.
3, said the hunter,
his beady black eye plastered to the sight. Mr. Trundle didn't budge.
2, this isn't a game, little brother,
the hunter said. Mr. Trundle stayed put, defending the Christmasaurus.
1.
Bang! The gunshot rang out, deafeningly loud as it tore through the street. It knocked Mr. Trundle off his feet and sent him soaring through the air before he landed on a heap in the pavement. "Dad!" William screamed. Tears exploded uncontrollably from his eyes. The hunter turned and faced him, the barrel of his smoking rifle pointing dangerously in William's direction.
"Unless you want to say ta-ta to Santa Claus as well as your father tonight, you had better keep your mouth shut," whispered the hunter.
William continued crying silently, not taking his eyes from his father's body lying motionless on the snow.
"Growler, it's time," said the hunter,
as he turned back towards a shadowy dinosaur and crept up the street. As soon as the hunter and his mutt had walked a few metres away and were focused on their prey, William made a silent dash for his dad, closely followed by Santa. As William reached his father, tears filled his eyes so he couldn't see. He sobbed and sobbed. "Willie Poos, is that you?" whispered a soft, shaky voice. "Dad, you're alive?" said William in amazement, quickly wiping away the tears. Mr. Trundle sat up on the pavement, looking completely confused. "Yes, I suppose I am," he said with surprise. "Well, stuff my turkey," Santa said in a jolly, hushed voice as he pointed at a smoking bullet hole in Mr. Trundle's woolly Christmas jumper. Mr. Trundle placed his hand over his heart with a smile. Then he reached down inside the top of his jumper and pulled something out he'd been wearing round his neck. It was a thin, worn piece of brown leather, and when he reached the end, William noticed that something was attached to it. "The piece of reindeer antler!" William gasped in amazement, as the pointy, branch-like piece of horn popped out of Mr. Trundle's jumper. "I've worn it round my neck all these years," Mr. Trundle said, looking up at Santa. He dangled the small piece of antler his evil brother had cut from the flying reindeer those many Christmases ago, and when Santa and William leant in closer, they saw... "The bullet!" William and Santa said at the same time. It was lodged deep inside the piece of antler. "It saved my life," said Mr. Trundle. "Well, there's one more life in need of saving right now," Santa said in a deeply troubled voice, staring up the street. Mr. Trundle and William peeked out from their hiding place behind their neighbour's snow-covered car. They saw the hunter silently slip a sleek bullet into his repulsive rifle, lift it to his bloodshot eyeball, and release a puff of thick smoke from his pipe. Then they heard that awful heart-stopping sound again. Bang! One single gunshot was all it took. It was violently loud as it zoomed down the street towards the shadowy dinosaur. "No!" William screamed, but it was too late. The hunter hit his target. The sun was gleaming, but there was no dinosaur silhouette anymore. There was only a shadowy heap, lying very still in the distance, where the dinosaur had been. "Yippee! Yahoo! Hooray! It's mine! I did it! Did you see that shot, Growler, you silly old mutt? I shot him! I shot him! Ha!" The hunter screamed and cheered and celebrated with a vile dance in the middle of the street, whooping and waving at the sky. As he danced his wicked celebration, light, fluffy snowflakes started to descend from above. William was crying. Santa was crying. Mr. Trundle was crying. There was nothing they could have done to stop it. It was game over. The hunter had won. He had killed the Christmasaurus.